Welcome to this webinar on 15 products in 45 minutes. My name's Anne from Orchid Systems, and today I'm going to run through 15 products and attempt to do this in 45 minutes. And I'll be doing this with Natalie's help with some of the modules. Orchid's modules fall into these 5 main categories: collaboration, tailoring automation and integration, streamlining financial processes, budgeting, reporting and business intelligence, operations and inventory management. And with Extender, we are also able to create apps. For example, our new Teamwork app, which is an integration piece written in Extender to integrate AC Chat with Notes and Extender workflows. Firstly, in the collaboration space, Notes and Document Management Link allow you to attach context-sensitive notes and documents to any Sage 300 screen. Notes supports improved collaboration by making the notes and information available when needed, and readily supports remote working and multi-site operations. It's highly flexible in its configuration. You can configure context-sensitive notes for any Sage 300 screen, either on the desktop or the web screens, and any third-party SDK module. The notes can be attached to a single field, like a vendor or a customer, or it can be linked up to 2 fields, like vendor and item. Notes can include rich text and hyperlinks and even small images, but these are available on the desktop only. And you have a large number of controls on who can see which notes, who can amend which notes, who can delete which notes. And you can color code your notes for easy identification. You can use Notes with Extender to create extended notes, which gives you conditional notes, notes which are displayed only if certain conditions are met. So if the customer is on hold, you can see a message. On-the-fly notes, for example, you can display year-to-date sales for a customer and an item, and you can drill down to open transactions through the extended notes. It also provides for a framework for external or cloud integration with your notes. And this is product number 1 I'm going to be showing you. Here's an example showing some notes around the order entry screen. You can see we have notes associated with the customer, automatically generated notes through Extender, notes associated with the customer and item combination, and you can have hyperlinks and small pictures in the notes. And this is an example in our notes web screens. The first one shows us an Extender created note, and the second to our notes associated with the item. And the icons in the Sage toolbar show you when you have notes configured for the screen, when there are notes, and you can change the color of the notes to red to highlight the notes. Product number 2 is Document Management Link, which gives you the same flexibility in attaching documents to any Sage 300 screen on the desktop or the web, plus any third-party SDK module. It improves your customer interactions by allowing you to easily file, locate, and retrieve documents without leaving Sage 300, and it supports remote working by overcoming your reliance on physical documents. Same as Notes, you can link the documents to a Sage 300 field, like a vendor, or a combination of 2 fields. So you could have documents associated with the vendor and the item code. Most file types are supported, including emails and attachments. And when you drag and drop a document in, you can rename the document automatically using information in the Sage 300 fields and screen. The documents can be stored on a network folder, or it could be stored on a map drive like Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, or you could be storing the documents in SharePoint. So Document Management Link stores the connection to these file storage services and allows you to display them in context with the Sage 300 screen. You can drag and drop documents when adding them. They can be dragged and dropped from a network folder or from Outlook if you are using the local Outlook client. So here's an example showing us document management link around the AP invoice entry screen. The top box shows us the individual documents that have been associated with vendor 1200 and the document number IN8899. The middle box shows us all the documents associated with vendor 1200, and the bottom box shows us all the contracts associated with vendor 1200. So you can configure as many boxes showing different documents on any Sage 300 screen. And here we're showing it on AP invoice entry, but these same documents would be available on any screen where you see the vendor number and document number, like the vendor inquiry, or when you're entering AP payments and attaching them to invoices. And we have the same screen for our web screens, where you have the icons similar to notes, which show you if documents have been configured. If there are any documents, you'll get the squiggly lines, and you can make the box red if you want to draw attention to these particular documents. And now we're moving on to our streamlining financial processes modules: EFT processing and inter-entity transactions and inter-entity trade. EFT processing allows you to create EFT files for vendor payments and for customer refunds. You can also use EFT processing to create direct debit files for your AR invoices which have a recurring nature, like rents or subscriptions, and you can create payroll files for US and Canadian payroll. EFT increases your accuracy and security and auditability around the EFT files. It supports remote working and the paperless office. You can email the remittance advices and pay slips. EFT has numerous security features, including encrypting of the bank account details for vendors, customers, and employees. You can also use the Create AR Receipt Batch functionality, which allows you to select invoices via many different selection criteria and create a receipt applied to those invoices. And we support hundreds of blank formats around the world. And this is product 3 that I'll be showing you. The process for EFT processing is once the payments have been entered and posted, EFT processing allows you to select the entries, to include them in an EFT file, to create the EFT file. If you're using SFTP and the bank supports this, it will directly SFTP the file to the bank. And once the bank has processed the file, you can email the remittance advices, and you have all the inquiries and reports available for subsequent reporting. If the bank does not support SFTP, once the file has been created, you would upload it to the bank and follow the same process of emailing the remittance advices after the fact. If the bank reports errors in the file, you are able to update the bank details for the vendor's customers or on your own bank details that were incorrect, and then recreate the file. So here's some examples of our EFT processing on the desktop and on the web screens. Inter-entity transactions is a suite of modules which gives you tight control over transactions spanning multiple entities in Sage 300. It streamlines processing by eliminating duplicate data entry and increases the accuracy of your financial data. We are often told that it saves days of effort each month for groups of companies. Inter-entity transactions automatically creates the offsetting loan account entries when GL batches are posted. Because it works at a GL level, all subledgers are covered. For example, the loan account entries can be automatically generated when you create an accounts payable invoice, when portion of the invoice belongs to Company 1, 2, and 3. When that batch is posted in the GL, the debit expense and credit loan account entries in Company 2 and 3 are automatically created. An inter-entity trade can be used when you have entities who are trading with each other. So either goods or services. It will mirror the transactions, accounts payable to accounts receivable or accounts receivable to accounts payable, and also sales orders to purchase purchase orders to sales orders. So the individual transaction only needs to be recorded once, and the reciprocal or mirrored transaction is automated in the target database. And this is the scenario I'm going to show you now. We're going to enter an invoice in Company 1, which gets allocated to 2 and 3. We're going to have notes and documents attached in Company 1, and the documents will be available for viewing in Companies 2 and 3. And then we're going to post a payment against this particular invoice and create the EFT file. In Accounts Payable, when entering the AP invoice for our office supplies, we are distributing the same AP invoice to Entity 1, which is the current company, Entity 2, which is Orchid 2, and Entity 3, which is Orchid 3. And as you can see, we have not yet associated a document with this particular invoice. To add a document, we could click on Add, and then from our Scan Documents folder, where we're going to scan all our documents in, we could select the appropriate document and drag it in. You can see it has renamed the invoice from scanned today's date and time to INV 2025-0418, which is the invoice number that I had entered on the screen. But if we had received this invoice via email, we could also drag it out of the email and drag it in. In this case, I will have two documents called INV 2025-0418. So it's asking me, do I want to change the name or overwrite it or name it date and time or name it -1. I'll select that option. And if there's any value in the email itself, we could drag in the whole email. So now we have the email message as well as the attached document. And if you're using an optional field to indicate the target entity, you can use Extender to configure the optional fields on the detail line to be included in the grid, making data entry easier to check and to do. So in this case, we have included the detail line optional fields of entity and project in the grid. So we've distributed this $2,000, $800 to Entity 1, $700 to Entity 2, and $500 to Entity 3. And now we're going to go ahead and post this invoice. And at this stage, Inter-Entity Transactions is not doing anything. It's at the GL that Inter-Entity Transactions works. But before I go ahead and post this, I'm also going to drag the document in for my other companies. So again, I could drag and drop from email or use Explore to bring my document in. And this time you notice that the document has been relabeled a different way. It's vendor number and then invoice number. And this is to make it referenceable from target companies. So when I go across to the GL and open up the batch, and I can pin the document management link tray so it moves with the screen and minimizes and closes with the host screen. And as you'd expect, we've got the $2,000 credit to the vendor control account, and then $800 for Entity 1, $700 for Entity 2, and $500 for Entity 3, and some rounding difference. When you go ahead and post here, it's at this stage that Inter-Entity Transactions reverses the entries out of Entity 1 via the loan account with Entity 2 and 3. So we have the loan account entries due from 2 and 1's books of $700 and due from 3 and 1's books of $500 and the corresponding due to. And then because Entity 2 and 3 are separate databases, we've now got the reversals to reverse the entries out of Entity 1's books. And if we go across to Entity 2 and look at that GL batch, we can see the debit to the expense account and the credit to the loan account with Entity 1, and we still have access to the invoice that we can double click and open it up from Company 2, and the same for Company 3. And just going back to Entity 1's GL, I forgot to highlight that we have access to the source document from the GL too. And when we come to pay this invoice, we have configured Document Management Link to show us the invoices for the vendor. So we see all the invoices, and we see the one that we've just posted now. And when we come to apply to the individual invoices, once the invoice is highlighted, you will see the individual invoices highlighted and isolated in the Document Management Link box. So let's select this invoice for payment, and we'll go ahead and post that. And now we're going to go ahead and pay that particular invoice. If you have Extender and EFT, you will have this button on the Post Payments batch, which when you click EFT, it'll take you straight to the Create EFT file for the appropriate batch that you've just posted. And when I click Create to create the EFT file, if I had configured SFTP, this file would have been directly SFTP to the bank after it had been created. We have had a quick introduction to the first 5 modules that I'll be discussing today, and I've started introducing the 6th module, Extender. And I'm now going to hand over to Natalie to run through Extender with you.
Thanks, Anne. Product number 6, Extender Configurator, is a cost-effective way to configure Sage 300. You can do codeless configuration, starting with alerts and notification that are triggered by Sage 300 data changes. When a record is inserted, when a record is updated, when a field changes in Sage 300, we can send an email notification, create an information manager note. We can also use Extender Configurator for audit logging to track what changed, when it changed, and who changed it. And a big part of Extender Configurator is also workflow for approvals and process automation. You can use Extender with Sage 300 core modules such as AP, AR, GL, IC, OE, PO, and third-party modules developed in the SDK such as Orchid's EFT or AutoSimply's manufacturing. One of the big differences with Extender is that all your configurations are held within your Sage 300 database. So when you upgrade, you just need to upgrade and activate Extender. You don't need to change your customizations. Extender Developer is a cost-effective way to tailor and extend Sage 300. It includes all features of Extender Configurator, but also caters for business requirements that can't be met by out-of-the-box Sage 300. You can build your bespoke business logic without the cost and complexity of full SDK development. But all your customizations are also held in the database and will upgrade with Sage 300. With Extender Developer, you can configure using alerts, logging, and workflow, like we've seen. But also we give you the ability to include Python scripts to customize Sage 300. Why Python? Because it is a very widely used language, especially among younger people. And also it includes many libraries that you can use to simplify your development. And you can use it to validate records in Sage 300, set some default value, automate some processes, such as creating automatically an IC assembly if there is enough stock when you're processing an order. You can do some screen improvements to customizing the desktop classic screens or create new screens in Sage 300. You can also store additional data in Sage 300, such as creating custom tables and the associated logic to store staging data for integration projects, configuration parameters, or simple tracking records of customer complaints. Within Extender, you can build apps that let you package some of your customizations that you want to reuse. Extender is particularly useful for integration projects and lets you synchronize real-time with external systems, such as platforms, to give you automatic exchange rate. And Extender also works very well with notes, like we have seen previously for extended notes, document management link. For example, we can automatically print and save as a PDF in the right folder for configuration in document management link using Extender. And it also works well with Process Scheduler for time-based alerts. Some examples of what we can do with Extender. Logging in this example when the customer credit limit changes, and you can see that the logging and the validation also works when you use the web screens, as the validations are done at the Sage 300 view level. Screen customizations of the classic desktop screens. We can add buttons, we can add fields, add tabs, change the finders, hide fields, all using Python scripting. And we're using the same Sage 300 screen, so you don't need to remember to use another screen. And as I mentioned previously, when you upgrade Sage 300, you just need to upgrade Extender for your customization to start working. We can also extend grids. For example, adding optional fields to the grid, and they will behave as if they were a standard field on the grid. You can move them around. You can use the values to do some calculations, so track a few optional fields, and when the data is entered, do some calculation to set a quantity ordered on an order, for example. You can use Extender to create your own Sage 300 views. In this example, we're tracking the Net Promoter Score per customer and per date. We mentioned Extender works very well with notes to provide extended notes where we run a script when you open a screen in Sage 300 or select a record and display some data. In our example here, we're looking at sales history for a customer. When we look at an order and when we look at an order shipment, we're displaying all the back order as well as the AR aging, running the standard Sage 300 aging. Let's now see how this all works in scenario using AR customer and OE orders. The first example we're going to look at, logged into Sage 300, is on the AR customer screen. Let me select a customer, and I'm going to change the credit limit to 11,000. When I save the change, a few things happen. Number one, an email is sent. Number two, a note is created telling me when the customer credit limit changed, who changed it, and from what to what. And that is relevant so that you can display this note when you're processing transactions for this customer. And number three, a log record is created. So if we have a look at our log inquiries, by default it shows me all the logging for the last month, but I can change the criteria and I can also see what I've logged. So here was the credit limit change I've just done for customer 1430. I have previously changed the credit limit for customer 1100. I've also changed optional field values for these customers. I'm also logging the on hold status and the change of state. So that's basically using Extender configurator for logging alert through an email, and we saw the email pop up previously. So there is my email notification configured through a message template that you can configure yourself. And we will talk about workflow a bit later. Now the other thing you can do then with Extender Developer is to do some data validation. So let's say I'm trying to set this credit limit to over 100,000. I'm getting an error message that looks like a Sage 300 error message, and we're saying that the maximum credit limit is 20,000, so I can't actually save this. But if I'm making 15,000, that will work. Another example of a validation that we use in conjunction here with notes displaying the valid values for this customer. So if I make the territory XX, when I try and save, it's telling me that this is not a valid value for the territory code. But if I'm entering ON, since we were in Ontario recently and I save, the value is changed, and because I've also changed the credit limit, I'm still getting logging, email notification, and an updated note. Next example we're going to look at is in order entry. As I'm selecting the customers, you can see the notes panel here and the document management link panel is being refreshed. I see the note that was created when I changed the credit limit for the house doctors. I'm also seeing another note that is basically an extended script that runs on the fly and shows me the total sales for last year for this particular customer. And as I'm adding lines to the order, I'm seeing the quantity sold, net sales, and the average price. So this is all 0. These are new items that we're selling to this customer. And we're also seeing documents for this item and notes, or I can add new documents. Let me post this order. We can see 3 additional buttons that were added through an extended script. And if I use this one, these buttons run the crystal report that we have configured for this database to print order confirmation and saves it in a subfolder per order for this customer. It's emailed the order confirmation to the customer. You can see the PDF is now available in Document Management Link. I can double click on it. So this is the standard order confirmation using the custom forms that we wanted to use. And if I look at my email, I do have an order confirmation here, emailed to the customer, based on the customer's delivery method configured in Sage 300 for the customer. Similarly, if I have invoiced this order, I can email PDF the invoice and email it from this screen, or I can also add it to the OE invoice screen. We've seen an example of using Extender Configurator for logging alert, Extender Developer for validations on the AR customer, as well as Extender on the OE order to add some buttons to the screen and to display some extended notes. A big part of Extender is also the ability to create workflow templates for approvals of records in Sage 300. This is an example of the workflow console with approvals for purchase orders, AP payment batches, customer credit limit, OE sales orders, AP vendor changed approval, customer credit limit changed approval. So with Extender Configurator, you can add workflow templates for any Sage 300 master file, any batches, GL, AP, AR batches, and IC transactions, OE orders, and purchase orders. There are also alternatives to approve the records without logging to Sage 300. One is Remote Action Service, which sends you an email link with a form hosted on AWS, which lets you progress your workflow action without being logged on to Sage 300. This is secure, you do not need to open a firewall port, and it's easy to use, works from any internet-connected device. Product number 9 is Workflow Anywhere, which is our mobile app for workflow approval. So it is the mobile version of the extended workflow console. You can install it from the mobile app, and you can monitor your current workflow task list and action them in Sage 300, whether in the office or on the road. And watch this space for future improvements to the mobile app for extended workflow.
Thanks, Natalie. And we're now on to product number 10, Process Scheduler. Process Scheduler allows you to automate important, repetitive tasks within one Sage 300 company database or across multiple Sage 300 company databases. It allows you to run these processes unattended in off-peak hours, and you can configure email notifications and detail logging for the various tasks depending on the task you're running. For example, you could schedule a day end to run in Company 1, post the batches that result from that day end, and then log into Company 2 and run the day end and post the batches. It works very well with other Orchid modules like Extender to run a script to alert you when stock is below the minimum for a location, or a customer is now out of terms, or a OE shipment which was due to happen today but didn't happen. You can also schedule crystal reports and Sage 300 financial reports where the parameters are set up and stored in Report Runner. You can also refresh Info Explorer cubes and distribute them to the appropriate recipients. Process Scheduler comes in 3 levels. Level 1 allows you to schedule data integrity checks, dumps and loads, to run crystal reports saved in Report Runner, refresh Info Explorer cubes, notifications on active modules, schedule extender scripts, plus more. Level 2 includes all the Level 1 actions and also includes day-end processing and posting of batches in AR, AP, GL, IC, and PJC. And Level 3 contains Level 1 and Level 2 actions, as well as more advanced actions like running custom processes, opening and closing a fiscal period, and GL consolidation automations for the export and import. So you are able to set up schedules which run across multiple companies. For example, here we're doing a data integrity check in Orc Limited and Orking 2. Or you could do a day end in Orc Limited and post all the batches in Orc Limited that result from the day end, and then go into Company 2 and do the same. And there's some 50 or 60 different actions that you can schedule, including your own custom processes. Info Explorer allows analysis using multi-dimensional cubes. You combine data from multiple sources in a single cube, and then you can slice and dice to dynamically control and filter the view that you're looking at. This allows you to analyze business performances, identify trends and exceptions, and with our Info Explorer cubes, you can drill through to the underlying Sage 300 transaction for more details and information on what you're analyzing. Any view can be converted into a graph or a tabular list of data, and these graphs and lists of data can be combined into a dashboard for personalized analysis. You can also use Info Explorer to do budgeting and forecasting. It allows you to do top-down and bottom-up budgeting with the click of one button, and then once the budget is finalized, it can be written back into the Sage 300 company database without having to format the data in an Excel spreadsheet and go file import. And you can use Info Explorer with Optional Tables module, which allows you to store data and therefore budget at a level lower than the general ledger. So you can do sub-ledger budgets, for example, customer budgets, item budgets, and you can even do combinations of sub-ledgers. For example, you may want a customer and item budget, or you may want to budget at a general ledger level and including the transactional optional fields. There is a version of Info Explorer which is free. You can download it and install it and activate it. And the limitations of the free version is you can only work with the 50 or so sample cubes that we have on our website. So you're not able to change the cubes, change the query, add a table or add a field, but there's full analysis within these sample cubes. And this is what Info Explorer looks like, a multi-dimensional drag and drop cube analysis tool. And from any configured cube, you are able to right-hand mouse button and drill through into the underlying Sage 300 screen. In this case, we've drilled through into the item record. And product number 12 is Report Runner. This allows you to create menus of crystal reports, either your own custom crystal reports or Sage 300's predefined crystal reports, and your GL financial reports. So the menus can be tailored, so different users get different reports to run, which enhances productivity and security on the reports that are available for different people to run. You group the reports logically by function and save the parameters. So on subsequent rerunning, you just need to click the button, fill in any parameters that are necessary or that may change, but not fill in all the parameters of the underlying reports. And then you can use Process Scheduler to automate these reports. So your crystal reports can be scheduled every Monday morning, send the age trial balance to the appropriate team, or on the 31st of every month, run the GL financial reports. And if you're using many optional fields, you could use our module data views, which simplifies and speeds up the reports that use optional fields. And of course, these data views could be used in your crystal reports that are linked into the Report Runner menu. And these are what the menus look like. On the left-hand side, we have the Financial Report Runner, where we've attached the Excel spreadsheets with the FR specs in them. And on the right-hand side, we have the Crystal Report Runner, where we've attached the .rpt files, and it allows you to configure the parameters and then run them. And in conjunction with Process Scheduler, you can set up a schedule to run the reports, and then the reports are run automatically on that schedule. And now I'm going to show you Info Explorer, Report Runner, and Process Scheduler. Starting off with Info Explorer can be added to your Sage 300 desktop, or you can run it from your taskbar or desktop. When you run Info Explorer, you are not using a Sage 300 LAN pack until such time as you drill through. So opening up this cube for our AP purchases analysis by general ledger account code, you can see we can have a dashboard, which is a collection of views, some views, graphs, and then different views on the data. A dashboard is just a collection of the different views and graphs. So here we're looking at our AP purchases by vendor. And we've grouped our vendors into the account set, the intercompany account set, the USA account set, and grand total. And here we're pulling through the data from the Sage 300 company to which we are connected. So if I want to analyze this data at a deeper level, perhaps I want to see the vendors within the account set code, I can drag and drop the vendor dimension to my rows. And now I'm seeing my vendors grouped into my account set and my account set grouped into the total. And these dimensions, denoted in black, you can drag and drop any of the dimensions to be a row or a column. So the amount excluding tax has come straight from the Sage 300 company, but the amount excluding tax as a percent of the column is calculated in the cube. And you can add as many calculations on the data, underlying data, as you need. So vendor 9002 is 9% of the intercompany group. 9003 is 90% of the intercompany group, and the intercompany group is 49% of the total. And if I wanted to see how this breaks down by general ledger account code, I could drag my account code down, and now I'm seeing the general ledger account code that was posted to within the vendor within the account set. And again, the amount excluding tax as a percentage is calculated based on the amount total per account per vendor per account set. So any of the formulas that you added are dynamically recalculated based on the data that you're viewing. So looking now at our AP purchases by distribution code, we can see we've got the amount excluding tax in functional currency and again the percentage in functional currency. If I only wanted to analyze some of the years, I could filter. And if I wanted to see the vendor codes within the distribution codes, again, I could drag our vendor down. And within that, if I wanted to see the invoice number within the individual vendors, we could drag that down too. And when looking at a detail level on any total, we can right-hand mouse button and drill down to see the totals. So these are the underlying transactions that make up that particular total. And from here we can copy and paste to Excel if we need to. But on any individual transaction, we can drill through to either the AP vendor activity or through to the AP invoice itself. And when I click drill through, at this stage I need to log on to the underlying Sage 300 company, and at this stage I am using a Sage 300 LAN pack and I'm subject to the Sage 300 security. So if I don't have access to accounts payable, I would get a message saying I don't have access to accounts payable. So this is drilled through to the underlying AP invoice entry, and because I have document management link and notes configured around accounts payable, I'm seeing all my invoices. And if I had dragged in the original invoice 001B, I would see that too. And from within Info Explorer, you can download sample cubes, which are loaded up on our website, grouped by the different modules. So if you wanted to download any of the sample AP cubes, accounts receivable, general ledger, and so on, including third-party modules such as Service Manager and AutoSimply. And these are the cubes that you can use with the Info Explorer Lite license. You would download the sample cube, change the properties to connect to your own SQL database, and then refresh the cubes. Moving on to Report Runner. First we have the Crystal Reports Report Runner. So you're able to create groups and then right-hand mouse button and add a report and add your .rpt Crystal Reports or Sage 300 Crystal Reports. And then you're able to configure the parameters the way you want to run them. For example, for our vendor aging, we have hidden all the parameters except for the from and to group. So when you want to run this report, you would specify the from and to group and then click print or click schedule. And you can set up a schedule to run your vendor aging for that range of vendors and schedule it to run daily, weekly, monthly, and send an email if appropriate. Similarly, for the GL Financial Report Runner, you create groups, right-hand mouse button, you add a group, and then within a group you add a report. And when you add a report, this time you're adding GL Financial Reports. So the XLSX with the associated financial report spec in them. You would pre-answer the way you run that report, in this case for Division 100, and then when you come to run the report, it has the parameters for all the reports, and all you need to do is specify the fiscal year and fiscal period that you want to run for, and if you want to email to any particular user group. And it'll be running these 4 reports with the same fiscal year and period, and the parameters on how they run have been saved already. And you can also save this run, so next time you're always going to save it in this directory and email it to this group of people, and next time all you need to do is click print or use Process Scheduler to schedule this. So looking at your Process Scheduler setup, you can set up Process Scheduler to run as many schedules as you need, and these schedules can run across companies. So for example, looking at our schedule to run our crystal reports, it's going to log into Orchid Limited and run any crystal report that's been scheduled to run by now, email and reset up the schedule for the next time, and then do the same in Orchid too. Or if we look at our financial reports, we are able to run a report group. So in this case, it's going to be running the Department 100 report group and save in that path and email to this user. And similarly, you can schedule your Info Explorer cubes. So in this case, we're refreshing 3 different Info Explorer cubes and emailing out as needs be. So your schedules can run any of these tasks. Level 1 up to send email. Level 2 includes all the IC day ends and all the posting of the different types of batches. And level 3, load database, copy database, running external processes, GL consolidations processes, and open and close fiscal year and period. So we've just seen some highlights of our modules in the Budgeting, Reporting and Business Intelligence suite of programs. And now we're moving on to the Operations and Inventory Management. Return material authorizations allow you to track your returns and repairs from within Sage 300. You can configure RMA workflows to authorize customer returns, initiate replacement orders, issue credit notes, and return faulty goods to the vendor. It gives you a centralized repository for all the data relating to returns, a single source of truth for all information that needs to be collected around a return. It avoids data redundancy, duplication, and rekeying and checking. And at any time, customers can be kept fully informed of the status and progress. And these consistent configurable processes let you reduce stock write-offs thanks to better item tracking, maximize your cost recovery by correctly charging for repairs, and improve your customer service and satisfaction, leading to repeat business. And this is module number 13. So the RMA screen looks like the reverse of an order entry screen, which allows you to record the RMA when the customer first reports the issue, select a template code to make certain rules apply to that particular RMA, return or repair. For example, you can make the invoice number mandatory on your returns, but not mandatory on your repairs. And then through the life cycle of the RMA, as the items are being inspected, perhaps sent to a repair agent, and then a decision is made whether you're going to replace the items or just return them to stock with or without a credit note. All of it can be tracked on the RMA. And keeping such details on your customers and your items around returns gives you enhanced analysis for fault code tracking and indeed customer performance. Product number 14 is bin tracking, which allows you to track inventory across multiple bins within a Sage 300 IC location. It's particularly useful for large items or high-value items in large warehouses when it's not obvious where an item exists. It increases your warehouse efficiency as the warehouse staff know exactly where to store and find an item, and you have configurable options for optimizing the pick and put aways. All movements in and out of the IC location would be tracked from a bin perspective. And it provides support for handheld scanning devices through integration with other third-party modules. Bin tracking facilitates a faster turnaround and reduced handling costs when picking and putting away items in the warehouse, and more accurate inventory records. The bins are highly configurable, and you can have rules whether you're allowed to pick from a bin or only put away from a bin, and the bins can be allocated automatically to the bin transfer documents based on least recent put away, most recent put away, or just by bin sequence order. The bin transfer is created automatically in the source document IC, OE, and PO is posted, for example, the sales order shipment or the purchase order receipt or an IC transfer, and then the bins can be completed. Your active bin transfers show on the bin picking status screen, so you know what work is in progress during the day. And the eagle-eyed attendees will note that I have not yet done product number 15. Should I be discussing our new extender app for the integration with AutoSimply's AC Chat, or the other extender apps that other ISVs have written, or should we go into more detail on the optional tables, the data views, or Freight SmartLink? We are spoilt for choice, really. But you'll also notice that we are slightly over time. So at this stage, I think we'll hand over for question and answers. But if you want more details on any of these modules, please go to our website, orchid.systems.